Picture this. You're interviewing with Amazon. You tell a story about a task you finished. The interviewer nods, takes notes. You're thinking, I nailed this. Except you didn't, because at Amazon, being busy and checking boxes isn't enough. What matters is whether you invented something new and kept it simple enough so it would scale. I'm Nick, a former Amazonian and bar raiser, and I'll share 4 stories from my time at Amazon to show you how to master the invent and simplify leadership principle in your Amazon interview. I'll start with how Amazon almost canceled its Fire TV launch because 6 hero games weren't ready. Fire TV is Amazon's streaming TV product, and it currently has an install base of more than 200 million units worldwide. When we launched it, however, success was far from certain. Launch was scheduled for April 2014, and one of the must-have requirements was having 6 hero games on the device. I was the person in charge of shipping these 6 hero games. I was told as an internal Amazon employee about the launch of Fire TV 9 months before launch happened. My first reaction was, wow, 9 months is tight, but still doable. If we overnight development kits to about 20 or 30 developers tomorrow, that would give us big enough funnel so that we will have 6 hero games to choose from. Amazon then laughed at me and said, no, you don't get this. We keep things confidential here. Every external non-Amazon person who sees and touches the device must get the approval to do so by the Amazon VP of devices and must sign an individual NDA. That made my job practically impossible. The way you build games is you have to disclose the whole studio of 20 to 30 people, and then you start with a funnel of 20 to 30 games in order to ship a portfolio of 6. So if I were to go down the path of getting individual approvals by the Amazon VP for this funnel of game developers, I would need to collect about 1,000 different NDA approvals. And that would be impossible with 9 months to go. It would take 9 months just to collect the approvals, let alone to build the games. So I looked at my management and I said, no, that's impossible. And then they looked back at me and said, no, what you're asking for is impossible, to send all these kits out there without the proper disclosure agreements. So we kept telling each other that this was impossible until my management finally said, look, this is non-negotiable. You figure out how to do it, and just know that if we have to delay launch because we don't have the 6 hero games, it's going to be on you and there'll be hell to pay. So I had to resolve this impossible challenge, and I didn't know for days on end what to do until one day I got a phone call. And it wasn't a phone call from someone important. It was a phone call on my old trusted Android phone. And when I got the phone call, it dawned on me, wait a minute. The architecture of the phone, the processor, the memory, the motherboard is virtually identical to the architecture of the Fire TV. Believe it or not, the processing chip inside a telephone, inside an Android phone, is similar to the processing chips inside these big screen TVs that you have at home and these TV pucks that you connect to your TVs. So that was my epiphany. At the time, Qualcomm was building the hardware for Fire TV, and Qualcomm was obviously disclosed on Fire TV from A to Z. And I went to the Qualcomm team and said, look guys, I need you to put together a representative architecture of the guts of the Fire TV. And I need you to go to these 30 or so developers that I tell you about and ask them to build games or port their existing games for that architecture. And that unlocked everything. Qualcomm started working with these developers right away, and there was no disclosure necessary. It was a bunch of silicone. And they started building and optimizing the games for the Fire TV without knowing this was a Fire TV future super secretive launch. And with about a month to go before April 2014, there was this big game developer conference. And I made sure that Qualcomm would have a secret conference room there and invite all game developers that were developing these games for Fire TV and tell them, look, there'll be just one of you in that secret room. They will sign an NDA disclosure agreement. The games are already built, and that solved the problem. This is similar to a bunch of glow sticks. You need to break them first. You need to break the process, and then the shine comes through. You need to invent and simplify. That is the very definition of this leadership principle. Okay, moving on to my second story. Fire Phone, the gift inside the failure. In 2014, in addition to Fire TV, Amazon launched Fire Phone. Unlike Fire TV, which was a spectacular success, Fire Phone was an even bigger failure. Fire Phone featured 4 3D corner cameras. Think of Fire Phone as one of the very early precursors to augmented reality and virtual reality devices today, like MetaQuest. At the time, Fire Phone was a spectacular failure. Customers didn't care for that features, but they cared for being able to control the device with their voice. And that voice controlling feature gave rise to what presently is Amazon Alexa and the Amazon Echo line of devices. So you can see, very similar to nested dolls, Fire Phone, that's what this silly label says. Much like nested dolls, the Fire Phone was the outer shell, the spectacular failure. But if you opened it, if you looked deeper inside, you would see another nested doll, which is Alexa. That is another example of invent and simplify. All right, let's move to story number 3. The 2 types of Jeff Bezos meeting you never forget. Meeting type number 1 is the blue sky, blue ocean type invention meeting, where mistakes are welcomed, where we're brainstorming. Amazon has the saying how 2 is better than 0, and in time that leads to 1, meaning how you ask multiple different teams to work on similar projects because they're new, they're inventive, and you don't know which idea and which project from which team is going to succeed. And via A/B testing and building along, you get those concepts down to 1. There's another type of meeting, however. That is the tactical meeting. And the tactical meeting usually comes after the brainstorm, blue sky, love and rainbows type of meeting. And let me tell you, those tactical meetings are horrendous because there's 0 tolerance for failure. You have to execute. You have to scale something. You have to simplify it in order to scale it. We've done this before. What's wrong with you? Just build it. An example of this from Amazon's many businesses would be shipping packages to customers. Amazon has been shipping stuff to people's front doors forever. So why are we still making mistakes there? I'll use another analogy to demonstrate this. Imagine if you don't know that eggs are fragile. And this is an egg, and you come from outer space, and you don't know that eggs on Earth are fragile. And you smash the egg, and you find out that eggs are fragile. And it's a great discovery for you. And that's okay. However, now imagine that once you know that eggs are fragile, you come up with a bunch of more eggs, and despite your knowledge, you smash them again. You crash them again. And you make a mess. That mess inside this bowl is no longer an invention. It is failure. And it no longer is subject to the benevolence of the invent and simplify principle. It is subject to the accountability of deliver results and ownership and bias fraction and a bunch of other more executional, more tactical leadership principles that you must adhere to in your Amazon career as well. I need to wash my hands before I continue this video. Give me 1 second. My 4th and final story today is how to tell invent and simplify apart from 2 other leadership principles like think big and learn be curious. These are similar, but they're very different as well. And I'll give you the code on how to decipher which is which. Invent and simplify is when you're an expert in a field and you apply that knowledge in another team or company or industry, and the knowledge that you've applied already exists and works fine somewhere else. You've just spotted the inconsistency, the ability to improve, and you've applied that knowledge and you've improved things. That is textbook Invent and Simplify. Think big is when you are an expert in a subject matter field, but what you invent and what you apply has not been done anywhere else. You are building this from scratch as a precedent that does not exist in any other field. That's the difference between thinking big and inventing and simplifying. And I would venture to say that think big is the toughest Amazon leadership principle to demonstrate. We'll talk about think big in a separate video. And the third leadership principle, which looks similar to these two, but it's completely different, is learning and being curious. Learn and be curious happens when you're not an expert in a topic, or you're brand new and you teach yourself something from scratch in order to unblock yourself or in order to solve a problem. So you see the difference between the three, and I hope this helps you in coming up with stories for your Amazon interview. And that's all I had prepared for you today. Now you understand how the Invent and Simplify leadership principle works. This is video 8 in a series of 16 where I touch on every single leadership principle and show you how to master it in your Amazon interview. Next, you're ready for the 9th leadership principle in the series. That is learn and be curious. Watch it in this video here next, and I'll see you there soon.